Joining us on stage next to discuss the blueprint for sustainable success with global brands is the CSO of HH Global, Kevin Dunckley. Kevin.
Thank you. So thank you, first of all, for coming today. This is going to be good. I've had a look at the speakers, and you've got a great array of people today. What I was thinking about when thinking about this talk, and it's only going to be 15, 20 minutes, is if I was you guys, if I was in the crowd, what is it that I want to take away? And that's very much how we think about it when we go to events, is what's that golden nugget? What's that tip? What's that piece of advice? Maybe it's a quote. Maybe it's a piece of an approach or a bit of tech. So I'm not going to come up here and sell you about our business. You'll get a good impression of what we do as we go through this. But I want you to come away with one or two really useful pieces of information from our lived experience working with the biggest brands in the world, some of which are in here today. So that's my horrible face. I'm privileged to sit on various advisory boards and to network with really, really smart people. And by definition, you can't help but have some of that rub off on you. Being a chief sustainability officer, some of you in the room will know this is hard. It's a big subject. There's lots of complexity around it. It's quite complicated. There's science, there's tech. And so some of the things you're going to need to survive as a sustainability leader, I'm going to touch on, and they'll flow through in some of the sort of principles and rules that I want to bring through. For those of you who don't know HH Global, we are the global leader in responsible marketing and responsible marketing activation, we call it. So we bring big impact to big ideas for the biggest brands in the world. So pharmaceutical and life science, FMCG, beverages, technology, not-for-profit, and we do that at scale. We're headquartered in the UK, but our biggest market is North America here. And we're privileged to work with some of these brands and network with their people. A couple of fast facts. You can see how many people we've got across the world. You can see some of the wonderful brands we work with. There wasn't enough room to put, the rest of them. We work with the biggest and the best in each of the markets. And in doing that, we try and align what we're doing and our impact and our scope of work with the client's own sustainability objectives. And this is tough to do. Some of the clients we're working with, marketing, procurement, and these aren't sustainability experts. We often will, get introduced to the sustainability experts in the client team, and that's good as well. But this is tough stuff. We're trying to reduce the carbon footprint of things like packaging, luxury packaging, point of sale, branded merchandise, in-store environments. There could be wood, cardboard, metal, glass. We do digital and creative as well, that a lot of people don't think has a carbon footprint. And so we'll explain to clients what the carbon footprint of a video wall or digital screens or an email campaign or a digital campaign is. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that. And as you go through this with clients, you understand that this is quite a daunting subject for them, but all of our clients have their own sustainability targets. We try and align what we're doing with those. And I'll come back to that in a moment. To do this at scale across lots of countries, we're global and so are our clients, you're going to hit roadblocks, so you need to be resilient. Anyone who's a sustainability leader in the room will understand this. You need to be able to join dots up. There's a lot of stuff where you have to connect A with B or C and make something happen. You've got to be very resilient and optimistic. And I love this quote, and I don't know if any of you have seen this before, but if you break that sentence down into two, there's two parts to it. There's a first part and a second part. We definitely align with the second part. This is overwhelming, this subject. If you watch the news, read the papers, it's easy to sink into a black hole saying, well, this is futile. We're never going to be able to solve this. Or you can fall in love with the solutions. And there are smart people and smart companies who are coming up with solutions to problems at scale. So we definitely align with the second part of that quote. And I love that. I'll leave that up there for a bit because I think it sums up what we're trying to do. So what I wanted to do was give you 3 or 4 areas where we've learned with the biggest brands in the world. So we're very humble about that. And what have we learned and what works for us across 4 categories? And hopefully some of this will be new to you and some of this will be useful to you. And if it is and it's interesting, come and find me later on and I can build on it a bit. So you're going to hear a lot about collaboration this week if you're going to multiple events. But before collaboration, you've got to connect. You've got to be a good connector. If you're a sustainability professional and you're shy, it ain't going to work out so well for you. You need to be able to get out to events like this, shake hands in the coffee break, speak to people. I mean, that's been part of the fun this morning. I've met 10 or 20 people I've met at COP in Dubai in London last week. Nice people, responsible people from tech companies or from brands or from, not-for-profits. You've got to love that. If you don't, it's hard yards because there's setbacks. It's hard, this stuff. Some of this stuff's hard and the successes need sharing. Once you've connected, and it should be something that sustainability leaders do all the time, every week, every day, be at events, connect with people on LinkedIn. I met the CSO of Philip Morris this morning. We didn't know each other till about a month ago. I connected with her on LinkedIn, said, I saw you talking at Sustainability Live. It was brilliant. Should we connect? She said, love that. I wish more people would do that. This is how we get things done. We collaborate, we connect. Don't be shy. You can't get anywhere if you're not going to connect. Once you connect, there might be some common ground for you to work on together. That's where collaboration comes in. And when you collaborate, you've got smarter people than you suddenly you're working with. Now, in my case, it's not hard to find smarter people, but you're in a room with people who are bringing a different perspective. And so we've worked really hard with NGOs. We've got a number of partnerships with NGOs. Come back to some of them in a moment. We work with our client sustainability team, plus their procurement team, plus their marketing team. We work with academia. There's many examples, and I'll tease on one in a minute, where you're dealing with the smartest people in education and the biggest universities in the world. Tech companies, startups. So you really, for success we've found, you need to be in the room with unusual partners. I call them uncommon partners. And then magic can happen. It really can. A couple of examples of that. We've got a sustainable supply chain program called the Sustainable Procurement Framework. We've had that 2 years now. It's over 1,000 suppliers. Our CPO, Kathy's in the front row, couldn't have done it without her support. And we're trying to educate the supply chain. That's not what I wanted to talk about. The advisory board we've got, we were advised early, get a board together of clients and supply chain partners. So we had BSI, who are here today, I know. We had Adidas, or Adidas, as you say, this side of the pond. We've got Diageo, we've got Coca-Cola, and we've got BlackRock. What a great bunch of smart people we asked them, we're going to do this with the supply chain program. What do you think? And we listen to what they say. Plus, we've got 4 global supply chain partners, one in Asia, one in Europe, one in North America, and we listen to them because we don't want to do the same old thing. We want the supply chain partners and the clients to benefit from it. So there's a really good example there of working with partners. Our circular economy program, Conscious Creative, we work with the circular design people who are behind IKEA. We don't have all the answers on all of this. We have to sit in a room and go, what if we could get designers to think about sustainability? What would they design if they understood this stuff? So we bought education modules, but there were none to buy, so we had to create them. So we worked with the best minds on circular economy. It's not us, people we partnered with to develop that. And then when we're talking about our Earth Day campaign, which is around investing in nature-based solutions, we work with technology partners, King's College London, and 12 NGOs. And I'll touch on that in a moment, and you'll get a chance to participate. So if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. It's not a solo sport, this. It's a team sport. So you're going to find it a lot harder if you're trying to do this on your own. I mean, that's the key takeaway here. Connect, connect, connect. You don't know what magic can happen. The second one, you're probably expecting this one, and I promise I won't say AI, but innovation. And innovation can be innovative materials, sustainable materials, but I want to focus on tech and the data. And what's quite funny is we used to say, our tech and data guys used to say, data is the exhaust fume of technology. I said, I can't use that in a sustainability talk, can I? It's not going to work so well. But what technology gives you is scale, and it gives you the ability to translate and reach audiences across the world. But what you're really after is the data and the insight that comes from that. So we've spent a lot of time looking at how technology can fast track some of the things we're doing. That supply chain project I talked about, technology-based. The circular economy thing is Conscious Creative, is technology-based. The investing in nature-based program, technology-based. And what you get out of that is fantastic insights. And so work closely with your CIO, CTO, third-party companies. This is where the startups come in. There's some really cool tech here this week at New York Climate Week that we're talking to some interesting companies who are trying to fast-track this stuff. Not technology for the sake of it, technology that delivers outcomes and you have insights and data. In the early days, we've been doing this for a long time, we would say to our clients, I'm talking about 2013, 2014, we would measure the carbon footprint of the client's scope of work. So it might be point of sale for a brand, or it might be luxury packaging or direct marketing, any of those physical material marketing categories. And we'd present in the QBR something like this and say carbon footprint for Q1. And they go, what is this? I didn't ask for this. It's like, no, but we thought you might be interested. And Q2 would come along and the numbers going up or going down, but it's a conversation starter. And we were measuring the materials back then using a really clever Excel-based calculator. No one really knew what they were doing in 2013. Anyone who says they did, I think, is not being truthful. But it opened the conversation up. So even rudimentary data got us into conversations with clients where they would say, okay, Q1 and Q2 looks like this. How do we drive that down? Now you're into a partnership. Now you're into, well, we could produce less stuff. It could be lighter. We could not ship it so far. Don't store stuff in warehouses. Maybe blend it with some digital channels. And then you can see in the next quarter what impact that had. So data, even though it was rudimentary back then, allowed you to get the conversation going with clients. Now, fast track to today, everything's automated in systems. We're measuring everything, and this is fairly business as usual now. But back then, this was really, not the case. So using data and tech to open up a conversation, to give clients a baseline or a starting point, and then to get the conversation going about what tactics do we use to reduce it. So we've been doing this a long time and visualizing it like this, and this is just one example. We've got clients who like to see the amount of waste piled high versus their head office skyscraper. That works for their board, so they would ask us to visualize it like that. Other clients would say, can you show this carbon thing? Because it's quite hard to imagine, as in cars off the road or amount of water, how many swimming pools of water have we saved? So visualizing it's quite an important thing to do. But tech and data, if you bring it to your partners or your clients, even in a rudimentary fashion, can make magical things happen. And you go from being a supplier, we found you go from a supplier to a partner very quickly. And the name of the game is to become a partner to your clients, not a supplier. So we found that use of data really, really key in our journey. I thought this one might get a chuckle. We found a lot of organisations spending an inordinate amount of time refining their data. We've got to get the exact carbon footprint of this. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be dead right. What we really need everyone doing is reducing their carbon footprint. So there's a term I like, a phrase I like, which is don't spend all your time working out the calorific content of the donut. Just know you've got to eat less donuts. Don't overthink this stuff. There's plenty of smart people who can refine your data in the background. I'm not saying we want poor data, but we need to be reducing our impact as business leaders on whatever industry you're in. So focus on reduction and action rather than measurement. And all the regulations coming in, I mean, we've got a whole army of reporting people now, which means we've got less people doing the work. So watch out for that as well. But good, don't let perfect get in the way of good is probably the phrase that sums that up. Third one, probably my favourite. And if anybody's not coming to the workshop at 12 in this space, come in. We're going to do a whole workshop on storytelling at 12 o'clock with Jax, who's here somewhere. People like me and sustainability practitioners, put your hands over your ears, we talk in this weird language when no one knows what we're talking about. Scope 3, Scope 1, 1.5 degrees. What is this nonsense? It's the science behind it, it's the tech. But what we're doing is losing the audience. They're switching off. They're saying, I don't know what you just said. This is too complicated for me. So I think there's a real play here for the CSOs and the marketing and creative teams to get together to make this simpler to understand. So, some of you may have seen this before, but if not, in the 90s and early 2000s, the marketing industry talked about something called magic and logic. It was how do we make campaigns that are based on data and solving a problem, but that catch people emotionally, make them care. And left brain, rational, there's people in this room who are probably reporting experts, they're in spreadsheets and systems all day long, or maybe tech people. You're more left brain, rational. You're into detailed data, bits and bytes, that's just the way you're wired. And it's less prevalent your emotional side. Creative people, people in entertainment, people who like looking at images and listening to music and pictures, you're more on the right side of the brain. And the world's made up of people who are either biased to the left or biased to the right. So you need to appeal to both. So when you're talking about sustainability, if you just talk purely in numbers, 1.5, scope 3, CO2, all this stuff, you're completely losing the right side of the brain people, which is probably half the world. So magic and logic was what the industry and advertising said. We need to connect with data and facts about the product or service, but also we need to make people care about it emotionally. They need to feel a connection with the product or service. And I love this. This is from a company called Collective Stories in the UK. And I think it's the world's first sustainability and marketing conference, happened in London at KPMG's offices. And she said, to avoid greenwashing and to be authentic, You need the data, the left-hand side of the brain. You need the data of where you started, what you're saying about your product, the benefit of your product. But you also need to make it authentic, and you need to make it hit people in the heart. So the data to prove the stories that move. If you see something that catches you there and it's authentic, you've hit the sweet spot. So I think marketing and creative and sustainability, if you can make the marketing and comms and creative people your friend, if you're a sustainability leader, from our experience, things start to happen. As they start to understand sustainability, they're the storytellers. They're the people who can market and tell stories. We're going to get there quicker. We're going to get more people saying, I'm in. I'm going to change what I do. I'm going to do something. Instead of talking in this highfalutin jargon language that we use. So I think that's really key. An example of where we've done that this year, we've used storytelling to try and engage with all of our staff globally. So we've got staff in 64 countries, speaking multiple languages, different cultures, different levels of understanding on sustainability. So the challenge was from the new CEO, and a challenge for me, is how do we get everyone involved? How do we make them part of the story about where we're going to invest some money this year into nature-based, credible nature-based projects? So marine conservation, carbon sequestration, forestry, credible projects, and nothing anywhere like offsetting, money where you put it into a project and you can see a return, a nature-based return, species, biodiversity gain, water cleanliness, something you can measure. And so that's hard to do. How do you get nearly 5,000 people engaged? We work with a company called Pinwheel, Glenn mentioned earlier. They've got a tech platform, back to collaboration again, tech platform that was translated into the languages we needed. The marketing campaign we put together as a company was with King's College London. Professor of marketing helped us say, this will work, this won't work. So we did a teaser campaign. We translated it. We used static image versus moving image. We had personalized emails versus non-personalized. We were testing what engaged our staff. And we were basically giving nearly every member of staff in the company, in fact, it was every member of staff, the equivalent of about $10. So it was nearly 50,000 US. So we made our colleagues part of the story. And it was the most successful marketing campaign we've ever run internally. And we made mistakes. So imagine when we fix some of the mistakes, where we'll be. And that's what we've done today and the London event. We've created a similar project. There's a QR code here. I'll put it up at the end. I don't want to leave that up for too long. So there'll be another chance to grab it at the last slide. But you guys have got the chance to decide where this fund goes for the Sustainability Live New York Climate Week. So have a look at the webpage. You'll see 3 or 4 projects there. Take you about 30 seconds to read each one. We've deliberately made them varied. These are projects that need the funding to deliver a nature-based return. This is part of the net zero standard for the professionals in the room. No, it's not just about reducing carbon. We've got to help species, biodiversity. Nature is collapsing in certain parts of the world. So this is where business can come in. That's a really nice example of where you can use tech, storytelling, nudges, marketing smarts to nudge people. And now we've got every member of our staff was involved. They were all part of the story. I like this as well. Now, Blackpool, I'll explain, is a northern seaside town that's seen better days. That's probably the politest way to describe it. When we're talking about sustainability, if you can't explain it to someone in a bar in 60 seconds, it's too complicated. Right? So when you're doing your next presentation or you're doing a sustainability-related thing, think about who the audience is. They'll all be nodding at you, but half of them, trust me, don't know what you just said. So keep it simple, root it in stories. If you can't explain it to somebody in a pub, too complicated. Finally, integration. I'm not talking about technology. This is about integrating it into your business. So there's big companies here with tens of thousands of people. We're, 5,000-ish, fairly big, but small compared to some of you. The challenge of the CSO is how do you make your company come on the journey? How do you get them all involved? You saw one example on the previous screen, but that was just one campaign. And that quote there is from Microsoft, and one of the most successful internal campaigns across that I've ever seen was Microsoft's sustainability team. That was their mantra. It's everybody's job. It's not just the sustainability team's job. So that's easy to say, but how do you integrate that into the legal team? What can they do? What can the finance team do? What can HR do? We're currently working on that right now. And I think if you can crack that, you're gonna do well. I put that up because a lot of people say when we're talking to a new client or just someone here in the coffee break, how big's your sustainability team? It's like the wrong question. How integrated is sustainability in your business is the right question. How you measure that, we've got meetings tomorrow and Thursday in this city to talk to a couple of companies who think that they've got a way of measuring how well sustainability is integrated into your business. How is it in the DNA? Are people thinking about it? If the CEO tapped them on the shoulder, would they be able to say which UN SDGs you support? Why do you care about it? Why do we care about it? So we're working on something at the moment with a third-party advice, back to collaboration again, and we're trying to work with existing tools like SharePoint and Viva Engage and email channels we've got. We're building influencers within the departments. We're almost creating sleeper cells within the functions who are passionate about sustainability. And for legal, it might be contract clauses that we need to work on or understanding the regulatory environment. For supply chain and sourcing and procurement, it's around sustainable procurement, materials, rewarding the best suppliers, helping them get better with all the regulations that they need to know about. Finance, carbon accounting. You start thinking it through, there's something for every function here. They just need to know what it is and how they can help. So that's one of the things I would strongly recommend. We're not the finished article on this yet. This time next year, we'll know how successful we've been. We might even have some metrics to say 30, 40% of our business are fully on board now. It's a quite interesting experiment. Different people care more than others. Some departments think it's a faraway problem, nothing to do with them. It's everybody's job. What we're seeing already, and I love this idea of lighting the touch paper and then getting out of the way. So you get a department or a function excited about this subject in simple English, plain English, and then say, here's what you can do, here's what your function can do, here's your part of the lift, and then get out of the way, because we're finding some of the departments coming back with their own ideas. We've got people doing stuff in communities, we've got people working on stuff we hadn't even thought of. So get them fired up, light the touch paper and stand out of the way, because they'll come back to you. This is another reason you don't need a massive sustainability team. If you've got a big sustainability team, you're either a massive corporation or I think you're doing it wrong. So we want to right-size the sustainability team and let the business own this. I saw SAP talk at the Sustainability Live. They were the keynote 2 weeks ago. And he told a story about a sustainability report's gone. It's not on the website anymore. Everyone was upset. And he said, because we've got a sustainable business report. It's our business. It's not a separate thing. It's a sustainable business report. It's got our numbers, our financials, and here's what we're doing. It's not a separate thing. We're not there yet, but we're heading that way. So it needs to be just the way the business operates. So work hard on each function. Go with the ones who are most enthusiastic first, because you're going to get knocked back by some of them. Show them what they can do, and then measure their success from where you started. So quick summary, connect, 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 connect. Can't emphasize it. Go and talk to people in the coffee break. Shake hands with a stranger. You just don't know, and you can't do this on your own. It's impossible. Technology, I mean, you're going to need it for scale. If you're a reasonably big business, you're going to need it. You're going to have to talk to people in multiple languages. You're going to be in different time zones. You can't do it without tech, whether you like it or not. And I haven't talked about AI at all. Tell stories. This is the key thing for us this week. We're really focused on a couple of events we've seen, which the stat for the week for me already, and it's only Tuesday, is did you know that if you couch what you're saying in a story, you frame it in a story, whether you're selling a product or a concept, it's 22 times more likely to be remembered. 22 times. And that's because it releases something called oxytocin in the brain. You think about bonding, you think about characters, you affiliate with them and you remember what you were told, rather than just being given some facts. 1.5 degrees, scope 3, 700,000 tons of carbon. What's this nonsense? Tell it in a story, people will remember it 22 times more than if you just give them some facts. Our workshop's going to explore that more after this. And then this is everybody's job. So they're the 4 things. We're living by these. We're not the complete article yet. We're still on this journey. But these 4 things have really helped us understand this subject more, help our clients and suppliers and partners understand this more, and make progress. And I think we've still got a way to go, but we've moved quite a long way in the last 10 years. So I'm hopeful that there's 1 or 2, or maybe if I'm bold, 3 nuggets in there you can take away and deploy them. And if you want to know more behind some of these stories, come and reach out after the talk. Thank you. And there's the QR code there.